to my air signs Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Welcome to your horoscopes for the Taurus new moon, a break in the waves. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Libra, how you doing? This is your horoscope for the Taurus new moon on May the 20th at 1:55 a.m. Now before we go anywhere and I turn the sand Libra rising, I want to invite you to a little ritual. I'm hosting a full moon ritual in 2 weeks, so on June the 4th, Australian time, I believe, for the Sagittarius full moon. I think that it's a pertinent time for us to get to know each other a little better. I'm going to be engaging in a bit of storytelling. I think I'd like to let you know a bit more about my history and what led me to this point and to this kind of work, as opposed to some of the other kinds of work that I used to engage in. And also to bear witness and engage in the ritual of the full moon together. I think that there'll be a lot of great release that occurs for us at this full moon in Sagittarius in 2 weeks, so it'd be lovely to do it together. And I think that I've said that it's going to go for about 2 hours. You don't have to commit to the whole time, but there is a link in the description box below if you'd like to register and join me. I would love to have you there. Okay, so let's get into the reading. So this is a new moon in Taurus, and this is something that we've not had access to for about 2 years now, because the dragon's head and the dragon's tail have been in Taurus and Scorpio for this time, and we've been having these power outages and power surges to Taurus and Scorpio where they fall in our chart. We haven't had a regular new moon where we've been able to, ask for something. We've been able to work with it and kind of experience that initiation that occurs at a new moon. This time we do. The dragon's head is further enough away from the sun and the moon that there's no chance of being gobbled up. There's no eclipse this time around. So I want you to focus in on your 8th house, Libra, which is a tricky one. But think about the intensity of connection. Think about the ways in which our soul intermingles with that of the other. Think about the profundity of grief and having to let go. And think about compromise. Think about the ways that we sort of sow our energy into that of the other. You can think about things like inheritance, or think about shared resources. If you share a house with somebody, you're sort of committing to working as two, as one. Now, this is a new moon, Libra, so I imagine over the past 2 years there has been some full-on surges to this part of your chart. And that might have been quite difficult. There may have been folks that you felt so much commitment to that have left. They've gone. They've dissipated. Perhaps the bonds, the bonds that you've been forging broke. Perhaps there's been a reconfiguration in your mind as to how you intend to invest your resources, or how you intend to invest your share. I think that this is a really lovely moon, Libra, because you have a say-so in this one. You get to think to yourself, okay, everything happens in a cycle. Gosh, I'm exhausted by the amount of grief that I've gone through or continue to be met with, to be faced with. But I also understand that endings are a part of life. And that if we don't consider time, as I have said many times, in linear, and we can recognize the cyclical nature of our universe, of our planet, everything has a season, doesn't it, Libra? And as we get older, we get better and more adept at handling the potential of grief, or handling the confrontation of saying goodbye, don't we? And so this is a new moon that you have say-so, you have access in, you know, you've got an involvement in this moon in Taurus. There's going to be one more crescendo in October of this year, the final eclipse in Taurus, because that lunation will be happening at the very beginning of the sign, close to the dragon's head again. But this is the end. It's too far away. There's no fear of it being gobbled up. So do your magical work, do your spell practices, and think about the profundity of the 8th house. Think about one of the biggest commitments that we can make in this life all occurs in the 8th house. It's lovely that Taurus is holding court over this part of your life, I think, Libra. There's something really kind of languid and pleasurable about Taurus. Slow moving too. It might be a really great moon if you do nothing else, but commit yourself to the act of not rushing. You know, it's been well-worn advice, right? I've been reminding, or been trying to remind folks that they can take their time, as opposed to that compulsion or that insistence from our culture to rush, to keep going, keep producing, keep showing up, you know? Sometimes you really need to take a moment and just stop and close the door and feel your feelings. I think that Taurus would be really encouraging you to feel your feelings at this lunation, Libra. I think that Taurus would be there with a beautiful bottle of rosé and some truffles and a box of tissues, drying your eyes, allowing you to heave, sob, let it out, let it go. Now there's some more info that I need to share with you. So as much as this lunation is our clearing, there's also some pressure building up. So Jupiter, the planet that expands and brings with it a sense of hope and faith and clarity, Jupiter has just entered Taurus at 0 degrees, so the other end of the spectrum of the sign. And as they enter Taurus, Jupiter forms a square with Pluto in Aquarius. And a day after this moon, Mars will have left Cancer and entered Leo, forming an opposition with Pluto. So you can see that there's sort of like a right angle triangle of tension that's occurring around this time. And Jupiter is a planet of size and of authority, I would say, in this particular trifecta. But Mars and Pluto in a face-off seems quite intense. So your 11th house of your sense of humanity and community and the greater collective, the greater good, is being is experiencing a face-off with your 5th house, where you see the world from your perspective alone, Libra, where you express yourself through creativity and otherwise. And so what I kind of feel is that there's pressure between what you feel that you should do and what you want to do, what role you have to play in a group, as opposed to what role you'd like to play for yourself. And it kind of feels like I have a feeling that things are going to change in a way that has you feeling a sense of greater autonomy or a greater sense of self is what I really feel at this time, Libra. I'm going to show you these cards too. So if we think that Jupiter this time is represented by the 5 of Pentacles, and Pluto at this moment is sitting at the 5 of Swords, and Mars will be entering Leo, and the 5 of Wands is the card that is activated by that decan of the zodiac. And so 555 is change. Whenever you see that on the bus or on the clock or wherever it is, if your phone battery is at 55%, that's another example of it. And 555 means change. And so this is for everyone. There's this real sense of urgency that things are going to change. And so moving away from this feeling of being a bit destitute, feeling locked out of something that that looks like it's providing some warmth and comfort for others, but you kind of feel unincluded in. And this could be a relationship in your 8th house. This could be something where the invitation is not extended any longer. But I think that if this is a feeling of walking away, the swords are the truth or our thoughts, and this is a real decision to step off. There's no winners in this card, and so it's almost as if you're putting tools down. You're refusing to engage in the argument, maybe in some way, Leo. In your mind, perhaps your perception of yourself, this inner critic, is finally being told to stuff it. Because then if we go and have a look at your 11th house, your sense of the greater collective, of greater humanity, this is like the studio, the practice room. You can see these folks here are they're in a sparring match with their wands, they're practicing their skills, what it is they know. They're developing their expertise. And so I want you to have a bit of faith in that. I think, Libra, that you're in process at the moment. You're developing your skills in order to contribute to some of the greater problems of what's going on around you. You can sense it. That's what you do. You're a Libra. You're highly intuitive and put off when things are out of balance. It can be very destabilizing. You can dissociate because of it. If you feel the weight of injustice is heavier for folks like you, the skewed energy between folks that are relating to each other, and they're it's getting heated, that throws you into a tailspin. But I think that probably this lunation is kind of here to remind you that it's sort of like you've got a stake in this life as well, Libra, and you're entitled to follow your heart and follow your passion, follow the path that's been eked out for you. It can feel confronting to stare down and potentially to stare down the potential of going it alone, especially when you're so used to cohabitating or coexisting, getting along. It feels that, this new moon in Taurus in your 8th house, it's kind of like, I'm going to show you this card too. I am jumping from thought to thought. I apologize, Lee, but there's just so much going on in and around this moon that it's sort of like, whoa. Hopefully I'll just start talking and you'll be able to pick up, this might not all ring true for you, but whatever does, take it, Lunation is the 7 of Pentacles, so at 28 degrees of Taurus is the 7 of Pentacles. So like this is a feeling of patience. So I think that there's this major emphasis on this idea of patience. And I don't think so much that it's to do with your, like, this maybe isn't so much advice for you, Libra, but it's there's a long game that you've invested in, and there might be some sort of hurried energy around you, or there might be some exasperation about what it is that you've landed on, what it is that you're deciding that you're going to engage in and you're going to do, because the outside world is proving just too difficult to ignore any longer. You can't keep that head in the sand any longer, and so you're thinking to yourself, right, I've got this amount of time left, I have this amount of resources, this is my game plan, this is how I can wake up every day and feel like I'm trying to help, I'm trying to do something. But it's going to take some time, and it's like these, this is what this card is all about. It's like we don't expect to have the Amazon after planting some seeds. We can look forward to that in years to come, but sometimes that's another thing that's just come into my mind. Sometimes we labor and we toil and we work and we never actually get to see the results of the work. We can only trust that by all of our might and our commitment and our conviction, that generations to come will feel the benefit of how hard we've worked, or how proud we were and persistent we were, how Leo we were. I might say this is your 11th house, humanity, the greater collective. There's a pride child to you in this, Libra. Sometimes it might be difficult for you to speak out on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of the group, you used to be able to do that really well. And I think that Mars re-entering your 11th house is an instigation. Maybe you're a bit rusty. You can get back into that practice room and you can work on your projection of voice. Okay? And this is the thing, I think that this new moon in the 8th house is kind of like, I never, ever, ever for a moment, Libra, want you to feel responsible for the injustices or the suffering of other people. However, I definitely want you to feel confident and strong in your conviction that you're going to live a life of service, to do all that you can to steer this ship of life, this ship of humanity in the right direction. We may not see results in our lifetime, but by our commitment to doing the right thing, it's a feeling of like a ship eventually taking its course, recoursing. I hope that this one's making sense, Libra, but that's the reading, That's what you've got to work with. Okay, so much love to you. The sand's run out, so I've got to go. Head to umaruby.com and you can get your birth chart read by me. Also, you can send me some tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And if you'd like to join me in ritual on the 4th of June and gather together and share some stories, then you can do that by the link in the description of this video down below. Much love to you, Libra. You take care, okay? I'll speak to you in 2 weeks. And who knows, maybe at a little Zoom party. Bye. Hello Aquarius, welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Taurus, happening on the 20th of May at 1:55 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. Now before we go anywhere, I'd like to take this little moment to invite you to ritual. In 2 weeks' time, when we have the Sagittarius full moon on June the 4th, I'm going to be hosting a Zoom ritual. So there's an invitation in the description box below where you can click and you can register your attendance, and I'll send you a Zoom link. But I feel it pertinent at this next coming full moon to share some stories. I'd like to take you on a little journey through my experience and why I've landed here in such astrological thick weather, why I read the tarot the way that I do, and where I came from to bring me here, what kind of life I had before as opposed to now. And in coupling with that, we'll also be lighting our candles and experiencing the full moon together. So if that's something that sounds like you'd like to do, then head into the description below and you can click the link and register your attendance. Now, let's have a look at this lunation, because this is the first moon, the first Taurus new moon that we've had any say in for the last 2 years. So for the last 24 months or so, the last 18 months, I might say, there has been eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, hasn't there? So your fourth house, which is your home, your roots, your privacy, has been short-circuiting. There's been probably a lot of shedding and a lot of changes that have happened in your family life. The fourth can have a lot to do with our ancestors too, and our caregivers. And the 10th house is our career, our public selves, our legacy. So that's Scorpio for you, Aquarius. But this new moon, we have access to. At this new moon, the dragon's head is farther enough away that there's no fear of an eclipse. It's not going to happen. And so we know that at a new moon, it's an initiation. It's our chance to work with the energies of Luna, to work with the energy that's left over here on the planet, because the moon's taking a little shut-eye. It'll be a dark black night. And so we get to think about our fourth house, Aquarius. We get to think about our home, our roots, our ancestry, our privacy, how we long to be nurtured and how we nurture, and start making some active plans for the future. We've got one final eclipse to deal with in this house for you in October. But this is like a reprieve. This is like a break before the crescendo. So I want you to feel empowered by this one, Aquarius. I really love that. I want to show you some tarot cards as well, because along with this new moon, there's also a major tryst that's going on in your first house. So your house of the self and the soul, and also your seventh house of your relationships. If the first is the house of self, the seventh is the house of the other. And so Aquarius, you have Pluto, who is stationed retrograde at 0 degrees of Aquarius, forming a square with Jupiter that has just entered Taurus at 0 degrees. And then also the day after the new moon, Mars will have left Cancer and entered Leo at 0 degrees, will be in direct opposition with Pluto and forming that square with Jupiter. And so I'm going to put it to you in these terms, Aquarius. Number one, you are so worth it. You absolutely are so worthy of love, just as you are. You are worthy of comfort and of nurturing in the way that your mind works, that you have everyone else's needs in mind before your own. It would be really wonderful for to come into relationship with someone that can recognize that about you, can love you for it, but also can make sure that your care and your ability to nurture is reciprocated. I'm saying this in quite confident terms because I'm kind of working with Jupiter in this reading. I think if we think about Jupiter and being that planet of size and expansion, the big gas giant with the red beauty spot, you know, some folks in some traditions saw Jupiter as God, you know, the biggest one. And so there's an expansive quality. It's like a magnifying glass that Jupiter brings with it. And so I want you to think about all of this language around nurturing. And I know for some of us it can be very triggering to start thinking about those qualities. I know that the fourth house for some is not a place of comfort or a place of security. But this is what a new moon is for, because you are entitled to comfort and to a sense of security and safety. Safety enough to be yourself, safety enough to find a soft spot to land as we prepare for Pluto's ingress and journey through your first house. The next 20 years are going to be remarkable for you, Aquarius. And I think that at this new moon, I want you to feel that you have power and say so in how you seek out a sense of being nurtured. I think that this Mars in Leo in your seventh house, there might be some passion there or some reignition of passion for you. And I think that there's probably, it might look different to what you thought passion was, because Pluto disintegrates and destroys and knocks everything to the ground in order for it to rise again. I think that probably what you're going to be looking at in senses of finding things attractive or in finding relationships alluring or magnetic is going to really include this sense of being nurtured and of building a space to rest and a space to be safe and a space to land. I know in my experience, which is very different to yours, Aquarius, because we've got different houses and different signs and things like that. From my perspective, I've journeyed and journeyed and journeyed and journeyed for love and the beguilement of attraction and coupling. And that was in direct opposition to a sense of roots and stability and grounding. I sort of have rejected roots and stability and grounding for most of my life because, one, I didn't think that that was something that was available to somebody like me, but also because there was this compulsion to look out for affection and to make the romantic gesture, to make the journey, to drop everything, pack light, and go to where I was accepted. So if you can identify with that, I'm talking in riddles, but this is, my fourth house and my Venus are in opposition. So it's sort of same but different. This transiting astrology is telling me a very similar story that I can really relate to. It's nice to come back into company with yourself, back into friendship with yourself, and to recognize that there's going to be things that are going to start and continue to shed and to fall away about you. You're, bursting through the proverbial chrysalis right now, Aquarius. That's awesome. And perhaps with that freshness, so too will be what you find attractive in a relationship, in a partnership. If you're in a committed and loving relationship right now, fantastic. I have a feeling that that's going to feel like a sense of rebirth as well. I think that you and your partners will get to look forward to a kind of parting of the seas, or kind of like, I get this feeling of like a gossamer sort of curtain sort of breaking through, sort of a whole new world. I'm not gonna go there with that song, but you know what I mean? Like, this is such a great moon for you to be like, yeah, I am actually worthy of being cared for. I am worthy of a safe space to rest. I am worthy of the long haul. I'm going to be here a long time. I'm going to grow up to be an old person. And I want a place where I can let it all hang out. I want a place that I can decorate. I want a place that makes me feel warm and welcome. And that I can invite people over and make them feel safe and warm and protected and welcome as well. This is the time for you, Aquarius, and it's really, really beautiful. I'm going to show you these tarot cards that I've been looking at as I've been talking, but I can really see it. It's got the wind up me. So Jupiter, we'll say, is this 5 of Pentacles card, and you can definitely see this feeling of rejection in this card, this feeling of being desolate or destitute. Okay, so Jupiter's arrived at this card going, I wonder what's going on here, and I wonder how we can make this shift. You've done really well to move through these experiences of eclipse in your 4th house. Perhaps what you thought was security and safety and nurturing 2 years ago, it's very different to what you intend to receive now. The 5 of Swords is Pluto in your 1st house. And I'm very proud of you that you've decided to walk away. Drop the chop. Forget it. I'm not fighting this battle anymore with my mind. I don't believe you when you tell me that I'm a piece of shit, brain. I actually don't believe you because it's a lie. And it's taken me this long to really recognize why you would say those things to me. And it's really taken me this long to stand up to you. And I actually don't believe it. I actually love myself. And I'm worthy of being loved. As much as I give it out, I'm worthy of receiving it back. And this 5 of Wands is Mars in Leo in your 7th house of relationships. It's preparation. It's magical, passionate preparation for beginning. There's sort of practice here in the 5 of Wands. And I think that, it's sort of like this pep talk is a part of it, Aquarius. And look, 5, 5, 5. That's change. If you see 555 on the microwave or on the bus stop, or even if your battery is at 55%, or if it's 5:55, and you just happen to notice to check the clock, that's change. Whenever you see 555, you can look forward to change. Things are going to be different, Aquarius. From now on, you're not going to be the same. These next 20 years are going to be so powerful. I'm so amped for you to begin this process of evolution from the inside out. And you're going to be so attractive to folks. You're not going to be so attractive. You are going to attract the right kind of people for you. The right kind of people that are honest and kind and pure and loving. Pure of heart, I mean. I don't believe in pure of body. I think we're all pure of body no matter what we've got up to in our lives. All right, I'm going to get you a little intuitive tarot, I think, Aquarius, and then we're going to call it a day. But I hope this one makes sense to you, and I hope that you can feel the optimism that I'm feeling too. I really think that this is a nice reprieve. And as I said, there's going to be one more eclipse in Taurus in October, and so don't worry, I'll be here with you and we'll talk through it. But right now, this is sort of like deluge time, This is sort of like I want my home to look like this. I want to share my home with. I want to be where? If it's to do with your ancestors too, it's sort of like, I forgive you. That's another beautiful thing to throw into the ring, Aquarius. I forgive you. Okay. So I got the 3 of Pentacles, which is a collaborative essence. There's something really kind of valuable in the exchange in this card. You can see it's an artist and a model and the tutor. And so there's a great 3-way sort of symbiosis that's going on here. They're all sort of helping one another and sort of need one another in order for something to be produced. It's a really beautiful kind of commitment to, collaborating. I also got the Knight of Wands and I got the Queen of Wands. Now this little bee has been visiting us for the last 6 months or so, haven't they? So let's have a look at this. The Knight of Wands seems to be running away from the Queen of Wands towards this sort of earth energy here. Now, I'm going to put this one down. So collaboration, right? I hasten to suggest that there's going to be a lovely feeling of reclamation for you, Aquarius. You're going to reclaim some of your fire. Remember that Leo rules your 7th house of relationships, so there is definitely an intensity there. No, I always say that. I've got to think of my vocabulary sometimes falls out the window when I'm doing this. There's a vibrancy to your 7th house. There's a feeling of attraction, animal attraction is what I'm sort of saying. There's definitely a sensuality to the way that you relate to other folks. And maybe that's been sort of not so accessible to you at the moment. But what I see here is that this moon might be bringing with it, and Mars as well, Mars's entry into your 7th. This could be Mars, okay? We're sort of getting back to this sense of like dramatic charisma that the Queen of Wands can embody. But I wonder if this is someone else, or I wonder if this is you. I wonder if this entree, Mars's entree into your 7th, is going to start sparking a sense of attraction to you, because you're going through this metamorphosis, you're going through this reclamation of your own confidence in your own self, that, hey, perhaps you're rising as the Queen of Wands, Perhaps it's you're the one that's beating him off with a stick. Perhaps you're the one that is really sort of relaxed and embodied and flirtatious once more. Because when it comes from you, we know that you can back it up with a bit of commitment. You can back it up with a bit of reality. This isn't sort of like a feeling of like, they're in, they're out, here for a good time, not a long time. I don't think so. There's something effortlessness. There's something effortless about your desirability, Aquarius, when you're not even thinking about it. It's when we become so self-conscious about ourselves, and that's when we sort of like shy away and sort of close up, I know how it feels to be on both sides of that coin, and I think that I'm my cutest when I'm not so concerned about that, when I'm less self-conscious, when I'm not conscious of myself, then I beat him off with a stick too. Hey, look, that's your reading. I was a bit more playful this time, and I think that it's for good cause, Aquarius. I want this to lift you up. I want you to think about your home, your roots, your stability, your privacy, your entitlement to being nurtured. And I want you to work with this moon and bring it on home, bring it in, okay? I adore you. You can head to umaruby.com and get your birth chart read by me. You can tip me at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And if you'd like to hang out on the 4th of June for my Sagittarius full moon ritual, then follow the link in the description below and book yourself a place at the party. I look forward to it. I'm looking forward to sharing with you a little more about myself and my journey so far, and we can all look out into the future together and go and chase it down together. You take care, Aquarius. Much love. Bye. Hello, Gemini rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the Taurus new moon on the 20th of May at 1:55 a.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. Now, before we go into our reading, I wanted to let you know that in 2 weeks, on the 4th of June, I'm going to be hosting a Zoom ritual for the Sagittarius full moon. And I thought that you might like to come and join us, Gemini, because if you're a Gemini rising, Sagittarius rules over your 7th house of relationships. Now, I was called to do this because for me, as a Pisces rising, Sagittarius rules my 10th house of my career and my most public self, how I'm publicly perceived. And I thought that it might be a nice time to share with you what got me to this point, the work that I used to do as opposed to the work that I'm doing now, and also how they're kind of maybe intermingled and interrelated. And then I think that it'll be really nice to actually engage in a full moon ritual together as a group. So if that sounds like something that you'd like to do, I think that I've said that it's going to go for 2 hours. You don't have to commit to the whole time, but that's how long I'll be chatting away and meeting and communing with everybody. So if you'd like to join us, head to, I think there'll be a link in the description of this video, and you can register your attendance and I'll send you the Zoom link. So let's rewind and let's talk about this new moon in Taurus. So Taurus rules your 12th house, Gemini. And we've been having eclipses in Taurus and in Scorpio for the past 18 months or so. So there's been like some sort of short circuiting, I imagine. There's been some like a sort of like deluge of information, maybe, and sometimes a feeling of drought, possibly in your dreamland. I want to cut to the quick of this one, Gemini, because I think that we're really onto something quite beautiful. I think that you and your Sagittarius friends especially are on like a precipice moment right now. There's a feeling that your access or your ability to connect to a feeling of unconsciousness, or a feeling of being able to sort of journey through your dreams, a feeling of being able to bring in some of those messages that seem quite sort of etheric, to sort of land them and to bring them back to planet Earth and to share with us what it is that you've discovered. It's about to happen for you. Now, this new moon, as I said, we haven't had one where we've had a say-in for 18 months. So this is a new moon in Taurus. This is an initiation. I think that this would be the perfect night for you to definitely dream journal. But if it's your vibe, maybe you want to ask some questions to yourself in regard to if it's lucid dreaming or if it's, you tell me. But this is deep. We don't talk about the 12th house very much, and in some, eras gone by, the 12th could really be related to incarceration too. Think about the development of our relationship with neurodivergence or with mental health itself, the idea of having kind of the ability to name the fact that perhaps our mental health could be in better condition, or we're struggling right now, but that doesn't mean that we're a lunatic as it used to. That means that we're a fully fleshed human being, and we are going to find the pathways to healing. That's the 12 can talk about all of this kind of thing. And the reason I'm sort of saying that there's going to be a door opening for you is because there's some other planets in this configuration that are bringing with them a sense of like, it's like there's a sparring match, but there's also like, I feel like there's like a feeling of like being in like a rehearsal room or a studio. There's a repetition and there's like practice that's being implemented at this new moon, ready for you to strike and to share, to publish, to present, to start the project. All of this work that you've been doing in this great, beautiful relationship that you've been fostering with your unconscious self, with your spirituality, with your relationship with God, your relationship with the goddesses, your relationship with the earth itself, with the plants and animals of this beautiful heaven on earth that we get to share together. All of this stuff, you've been in the practice room. You've been boning up. You've been really endeavoring to go there to find out as much as you can. And I think at this new moon, you've got some great planetary assistance to really kind of hit publish. And I'm going to tell you why. So the sun and the moon at 28 degrees are forming the new moon, far enough away from the dragon's head that there's no eclipse, nothing's being gobbled up. This is a beautiful black night to make magic, to cast your spells, to definitely ask your dreams what they're trying to tell you, all of that stuff. In addition with that though, Jupiter, the planet that expands and brings optimism and faith and hope again, has just entered Taurus too. So Jupiter has just entered into your 12th house. I know what that feels like. It's really great. But there is this feeling of like a magnifying glass being sort of like zoomed in on some of the finer details, perhaps of the more abstract images that might be rolling around in your brain or have been. Maybe there's been a sort of pattern that you haven't quite been able to decipher what that means, or like a theorem or a code, you know, an unconscious code that you've been trying to crack. Well, Jupiter's come right on time to help you out. The card that Jupiter is sitting at is the Five of Pentacles. So this feels to me like a disallowance, or it's sort of like, I can't go in there. I'm not welcome in there. People like me aren't welcome in there, is what this card always brings up. It's a difficult one to look at. It can talk about ostracization. It can talk about neglect. It also can talk about self-neglect or self-denial. And so I think Jupiter salving this energy in your 12th house, your private worlds, I think is really lovely. It's a great encouragement. And there's relationships that Jupiter is forming, one with Pluto, who is still at 0 degrees of Aquarius. They've stationed direct, they haven't left yet. So they're still sitting there at that critical first degree of Aquarius. So if we think 0 of Taurus to 0 of Aquarius, fixed sign to fixed sign, that's a square, that's pressure. And so for you, Aquarius is your 9th house, which is where we expand our mind and learn in the lofty halls of academia and publish. We go to university, we study under the tutelage of our superiors. I find this really interesting that this card, the Five of Swords, is showing up to describe this, because it's almost as if you've decided to like stick it. You're like, nah, I know what I know. I don't need this antagonism or this like retaliation, or I don't actually need to prove myself to you. I know what I know. Jupiter knows what I know. And so I'm kind of like setting this down. I think over the next, this is like you're at the very beginning chapter of a huge part of your life too, Gemini. So for the next 20 years, Pluto is going to be like setting fire to everything you thought you know in order to open the gate to another version of the truth or an ulterior motive. The other end of the scale is Mars has, the day after this new moon, Mars will leave Cancer and enter Leo. Now Leo is your 3rd house, which is where we learn to communicate with our voice. It's where we go and visit the hedge witch and get our tarot cards read. It's where we worship the goddess too. It's private rights and neighborhood and sanctuary. Sanctuary, right? Well, Mars has just entered this place for you. You're pretty good in the 3rd house anyway, Gemini, but Mars is entering your 3rd house, and this is where the practice begins. This is where the training starts to happen. That's a lot of info. Essentially what I'm getting at is that there's something that is innate in your makeup. There's something that's really juicy about your magical qualities, about your dreamland, about where it is that you journey at night, what it is that comes into your mind, and what you're coming to understand about the human condition, about the human potential to connect us all together. Very compassionate, aren't you, Gemini? But there's something private about this. It might not be, might not feel confident to share it with everyone, or it might not suit something so sort of academic or po-faced. There's a feeling of kind of working in a restrictive environment where it's sort of like, I'm sure this is all by the book, but it's not the friggin' book that I want to read. I'm not into this. I feel restricted here, and I feel silenced here, and I feel that my sort of pith and vinegar, if that's the right term, my enthusiasm is being taken advantage of here. I feel like I'm doing a whole bunch of work on behalf of somebody else. And this is where Mars comes into your third house. We go back to the village. We go back to the hedge witch, the one that lives at the end of the street, the one that you go in privacy to heal with, the one that reads your cards or reads your stones or puts hands on you in somatic healing. It's the one that tends to the medicine of this planet. They learn herbalism. They learn how to guide someone through a pivotal experience in their lives using their expertise of their neighborhood, their locale. Does that make sense to you, Gemini? I hope it does. And it's not to say that we stick it, we throw the ninth house out the window. No. But we just don't have to continually edit bits of ourselves out in order to fit into that sort of structured academic rhythm or routine. The relationship between the 12th and the 3rd, there's friction there, isn't there? There will always be a sort of friction there, but it's nice. It's sort of like what can be drawn from the 12th and then cajoled and conjured out and then presented in the 3rd. What lessons can be given with voice and conversation, you love that, rather than the written word, or rather than, dusty tomes of sort of evidence-based theorem. I hope what I'm saying is making sense to you, because I want you to feel kind of excited about this. This short-circuiting between the 12th and the 6th, your sort of mental health, your physical health, maybe is one example of this eclipse in these two houses. But you're coming to a point of clarity, I think, Gemini, and you can really maybe afford yourself a little bit more trust in the process. I want to maybe draw just one more bit of attention to you, there's another point of interest that I want to talk about. I won't pull you any intuitive tarot. I think that because there's so much friggin' energy on the table already, and I'm using the same cards, but I'm reading for everyone in a different way, and this is the beauty of storytelling. But there is one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So this new moon, the sun, the moon at 28 degrees of Taurus, if you're about my age, if you were born in 1984, maybe the beginning bit of 1984, you might have a Chiron placement pretty similar to mine. I was born in January of 1984, and I have a Chiron placement of 28 degrees of Taurus. Okay? And so I'm looking forward to this new moon, this chance to initiate something new, a chance to really kind of start and begin a healing process. I'm looking forward to what may show up for me. A Chiron placement in Taurus can speak to a wound of loss or lack. It can speak to a continual sort of feeling of or worry or fear of not having enough, or not being provided for, of not really having the stuff to generate, feeling a bit stupid about resources, or a bit incapable of starting something to grow. Another bit of synchronicity is that the final decan, the 28-degree point of Taurus, is the Seven of Pentacles. And so you can sort of look at that card and tell that story, can't you? And sort of this character here in this card is sort of like, oh, well, I've done everything that sort of everyone else is doing. Like, I planted this and I planted that, and I'm working on this and I'm working on that. And I wonder if anything's going to come of, is it going to grow or not? Like, I'm a bit exhausted and a bit dirty, and I still don't have very much. I have enough to get by. Like, this little sprout keeps sprouting, so I harvest that. But like, am I ever going to have like enough to share around and enough to sort of sustain us all? And I think that probably that's just a really nice thing to think about in relationship to a Chiron placement in Taurus. And I apologize all of my other Geminis if we're not of similar age, then it might be different for you. But I just felt it kind of pertinent there. It was a note that I made, and I haven't told everyone, but I just felt it was important because it looks so much like this card. Chiron in Taurus could look like this, you know. It's that sort of like, oh God, I'm just shit at growing things. I just can't. I've got a black thumb. I just can't. I'm rubbing these two sticks together, and I've been doing it for my whole life. You know, that kind of feeling. So hopefully this new moon will be like a nice burst of optimism and activation for you in terms of coming to terms with this wounding of loss. Maybe we can work to start healing that, you know. Problem shared is a problem halved as well. Maybe if you hear that you're not alone in the idea of, you know, and if you were born in 1984, then we're 40 next year, you know, it's sort of like, oh, okay, you know, still that relationship with the material world. It's all right. We've all got different learning styles. We all have lessons to learn as well. And we've all made decisions, and we reap the consequences of those decisions, but we take them as a lesson rather than as a punishment, I reckon. It's going to grow, Gemini. It will. It will. And I want you to sort of, feel excited for this new moon in Taurus. You know, work with it. Cast your spells. All right, I'm going to take off. You can head to umaruby.com and get your birth chart read by me. Tips are always very much appreciated at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And if you'd like to join me in full moon ritual to celebrate your 7th house of relationships and release what we need to clear out that rafter or that attic or that basement, whatever it is that you need to clear out, in regards to the way that you relate to other people and how they relate to you, then let's do it tomorrow. The link is in the description box, so you can follow the tab and sign up. And I'll see you on the 4th of June. I'll be releasing horoscopes too, so if you can't make it, don't have a horoscope as well. But you know, let's gild that lily. All right, Gemini, take care. Bye.